Your health and your finances go hand in hand. We talk about it all the time in many ways that they're connected. And that's why when I heard today's guest speaking, we met through another social media type membership that we're a part of. And I heard her speaking about the way that she approaches health and the way that she views things. Our views were so in line with the way that we approach really both health, but it's the same principles, the same manner of speaking when it comes to your finances. I knew I had to have her on the show. So I'm really excited for you to listen to today's interview with our guest, Dr. Yvonne Castillo. She's cracked the code to getting and staying pain-free naturally without endless painkillers, procedures, or trips to the doc. She's helped over thousands of driven health conscious women stop chasing their symptoms with ineffective pills and procedures and finally fix the true source of their pain with her proven Calm, Nourish, Move method, 5F pain freedom framework, and the 3S mobility method. In addition to helping women 40 plus work out without worry, sleep through the night without having to pop fistfuls of Aleve, and stop canceling commitments because of the pain through her transformational one-to-one coaching courses and group programs, Yvonne has created the Pain-Free and Powerful Project to help the often ignored 40 plus crowd get the support and simple strategies to experience pain freedom now and for decades to come. When she's not helping women fix the true source of their pain and utter exhaustion, you can find her running at the beach or hiking the trails of Santa Barbara with her sweet 103-pound Ridgeback Palo in the garden, transplanting her latest succulent explosion, or battling over a friendly game of Mexican Train with her family. Yvonne has over a decade of experience as an integrative pain specialist and holds a doctorate and master's in physical therapy, is a certified health and wellness coach, gluten-free practitioner, and Pilates instructor. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the interview. Welcome, Yvonne, to the Your Money, Your Life podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. I think this is going to be a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Aimee. I'm so honored to be here. And yeah, I know we had a couple little chats before we jumped on and we kind of got a little spicy. We already got into it. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, definitely think it's going to be great. So first off, I always like to ask, what does your money, your life mean to you?
Ooh, so for me, it is, it's about freedom, about having the freedom not to constantly have, and this goes with your health too, not to constantly always have that worry or that kind of monkey on your back. The ability at any point in time to, if something happens, you have to care for loved ones or anything, to be able to have that flexibility, and to be able to fulfill what you want to do in life. And I think that comes so important with your health, but then also with your finances as well, especially as we've seen in the past couple of years. It's been a major hindrance for a lot of people, and how healthy your finances are will directly affect how your health, and likewise how your health will directly impact your finances.
Definitely. And we talked a little bit about my story and like how many times that like coincides there, and doing what we need to with our finances or doing what we need to with our health, and it all plays in together. But I love that you focus on eliminating pain naturally. So can you tell me a little bit about like your journey and how you became to focus on the healing and eliminating pain in a natural way? Because I know that's not always common in the traditional medical field.
Yeah, so I am trained as a doctor of physical therapy. I have my master's in it as well, also a Pilates instructor. And so I worked in kind of the corporate setting, worked in hospitals, I worked in outpatient orthopedics, and always the common thread is it's like, what happens, there's like such a reductionist approach, I think, sometimes with healthcare, where we're constantly chasing just the symptoms versus being able to have the space, have the time to really look at things holistically. And the thing that got me, so I specialized in pre and post-operative care for over a decade, I was mentored by some of the leading orthopedicians. I've seen a bajillion surgeries. So I've literally like had the veil ripped back to how things operationally work, but also where were the gaps. And the biggest gaps I always saw was like so much of the things that I saw, so many of the surgeries, so many, the $100,000 low back surgery that didn't work and people were going in again, it could have been completely avoided. But it was really interesting to see either from a financial place where people are really resistant to invest in their health. And there's so many shocking statistics out there right now with obesity rates, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, arthritis. And I think that is where there's such, and it's my hope and my mission, where there's so much room for improvement, but the prevention piece is so key. And I think the other thing too, is so many people believe when it comes to pain, they're bought into the story where it's just your age, it's just your genes, it's just your body type, or maybe some of the decisions that you've made in the past have really just like written in stone your future. And from what I've seen in my work with the clients that I work, I mean, you're able to reverse chronic disease, chronic illness, autoimmune issues, where a lot of people are going to, their doctors and they're told otherwise. And my older sister's an orthopedic surgeon. My younger one is a nurse. So this isn't about, bashing doctors. I have utmost respect, but it's more so when we think of traditional medical models, it's for diagnosis, disease diagnosis. But there's really a point, like perfect example of like diabetes is like, you'll get the diagnosis of diabetes once you're over 120 with your blood sugars, but the damage is still being done at 119. And same thing with low back pain. It's so common where it's like, okay, you go in, you throw your back out, the x-ray doesn't really show anything. The MRI is kind of so-so. And it's like, well, just here's like 800 milligrams of, Advil or whatnot. It's like, oh, come back, we'll adjust your dosage. Or if it's problem. And the one thing that gets me, and I hear this so much, especially with people that struggle with arthritis is, it's just where people are like literally just waiting out a joint replacement. And they're basically, verbatim, where a lot of orthopedists will say, well, just come back when you can't walk anymore. And it's like the progression of disease, how it impacts quality of life, relationships, people's ability to work, their identity. And so much of that can be completely avoided. And the opioid epidemic is just out of control. I mean, what is it? Over 21 to 29% of people misuse opioids. It costs $78 billion a year. And women are prescribed pain medications more than men. And it's just, it's a big thing. And, just to step back, when people kind of see the models of how things is, it's like you go to the doctor, you get the prescription, you get the injection, you're just gone through this kind of, and and people can get really stuck. And I think that's the big thing too. And that's is like, and same thing with your finances. I don't think people realize like how, just like finance is a learnable skill, your health habits is a learnable skill. And a lot of people abdicate that just to the doctors. It's a very traditional thing. We're taught since we're young, you get hurt, okay, I'm going to go, they're just going to give me a pill for this, versus like taking back the responsibility, taking back the accountability. And it's like, well, what are the lifestyle choices I can make? And that's where the rub lies in, because it's getting healthy, getting pain-free is actually quite simple, but it's the consistent little things that you're doing, lifestyle things, diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep, hydration, positive relationships, spiritual health, all those things.
There's a couple key things there. It's almost like we're indoctrinated. And I think we talked about this in one of our little chats previously, like it's just the way it is. We hear that so often. It's like, okay, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm just doing this. We don't even see that there's other ways out there or the hope at the end of the tunnel, because there's so much misinformation out there. And, there is definitely a place for modern medicine. I've always said that. I mean, my middle son's life was saved because he was able to have a life-saving procedure, but we have become so reliant on like, okay, this is just the way it is. And this is the way, like, we don't question it. And I love like that's the part of it. And you nailed it. It's simple. Just like with our finances and our health, that it's simple to make the changes, and the information's out there. I mean, we both put out like the content out there. There's so much information out there. It's just about taking the action consistently. And with all the other influences out there, that's exactly why it's so helpful to have somebody that's like the supportive and it knows what you're working towards. Because I mean, we all have that out there. Like the defeat comes in because of all the other things that we hear. And, you know, I think it's a network marketing joke that they talk about, like, okay, when you join network marketing and then you go tell your friends and family, and then all of a sudden they tell you like how bad it is. And we talk about it in that regard. And yes, that's true, but really it happens in all areas of your life. Like, okay, I'm going to make a change for my health and I'm going to start doing this. And then you've got all the random people out there that, yes, are important to you, but are they experts in that area? Do they have the knowledge and the credibility to be able to tell you like, okay, that's not going to work? And I just love it. So often when we're talking to either prospective clients or maybe people that need to be clients, they feel that this won't work for them because something. So what's one myth that you would want to bust to help them see the light? I know we talked a little bit about it, but there's something specific that like you need to know or you need to believe to really truly find that hope again, to make that first step?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest myth, and I was on a call with a client last week, and it's so shocking. It's something that I always have to remind myself. I mean, as you know, as you're an expert and you live in it, it's like, I always tell people, like, when I work with someone or I evaluate, when I talk to them, I kind of have a crystal ball of like, because I've been doing so, like, I know, like when people like you, I'm like, you can make these choices and you can end up this way. You can make these choices and you go this way. So it's like, I know what's possible for them. But it's hard because they don't see it all the time. And so many people, it's like shocking to me whether they don't think that they can reverse low back pain, knee pain. Okay, they've been told they've got, the world's worth arthritis. Like, I literally had a client who went in, had his spinal x-rays, and the PA said, oh, like, these are the worst bone spurs. You would be airlifted. You would basically be paralyzed. Like, to me, if someone says that, you're like, put me on the chopping block tomorrow and I'm going to have surgery. Versus you look at you got to match things up clinically. Like, how are like a lot of the diagnostics, like how are you exactly existing? So I think that's kind of the mistake, and people, it's really scary for them. And I think the biggest thing is people don't think it's possible to reverse chronic illness, chronic fatigue. I think there's also a little bit of shame and judgment that goes in there, that people have neglected their health. They kind of get to the place where they're just like, why did I let this happen? Or they feel like these are just the cards that I'm dealt and I can't change it, that it will take too long. It'll be too much, it's going to cost too much. What if I get it wrong? I think those are the really big things. It's like that belief piece that it's possible. Like, when I get clients and they've got that clear goal, that they know what they want to do. They want to be hiking when they're still 80. They want to be playing on the ground with their kids without, they want to be gardening. They want to be traveling without their back going out. I tell them it's just really crossing off days on the calendar. It's like, when you have a proven system, when you have a framework and doing it, and it's literally just checking off days off the calendar. But for so many people, they don't even see it as a possibility. So many people aren't even looking for solutions. They think the only tools out there are just the pills, just going in for the cortisone shots. Like, okay, I'm just going to go, massage, get chiropractor. I think it's it's just constantly chasing the symptoms that are in the moment. And another big mistake people make is, well, the pain's gone, the symptom's gone, I'm okay. And there couldn't be anything further for the truth. And that's a big reason, like, you won't be seeing, like, people ask me, like, what's the best exercise for this? What's the best thing for that? And it's like, well, you're a unique individual, and it would be remiss of me if I give you something, you get relief, you think you're fine, and then you go do something that's beyond your capabilities and you get seriously injured. I see it happen all the time, where people are, surgeries that then lay them out for 3-6 months, or they're kind of somewhat never the same again. And that's because it's just that patch you up mindset of like, we're just dealing with the symptom that is today. Oh, symptom's gone, we're okay. And it can be hard too when people are investing in their health. Like, okay, if I don't have that symptom, I'm good, I can stop, versus being like, I always tell people, like, we're shooting for 110%, because if we get to like 99.9999, we're good. And like, you want to be kind of bulletproof when it comes to your body, and you want to have that resilience. Because I tell people, and this will go in for your finances, is like, you want to account for the oh shoot moments of life. Nobody plans to get in a car accident. Nobody plans to have a bicyclist, cut them off and fracture their shoulder. Nobody plans for the dog to run out and yank them, or someone to run into them when they're skinny. Nobody plans for that. And if people are even like that, so it's like the consistent little steps that you take, the exercise, the nutrition stuff, like you'll bounce back from those oh shoot moments of life with grace, but not only physically. When you also know that you're consistently doing something else, there's something else emotionally and mentally that happens where you're knowing like, okay, I'm in integrity with my health. I'm doing these things. That when those things happen, you're like, that's out of control. And there's not the like, I wish I would have been doing this for this long. And I see it happen all the time. Like people that are consistently doing those things. Like I had one client we were working with, she was doing great. She had, low back pain, sciatic and stuff like that, totally resolved all that. Well, she was walking with her dog. He pulled her, she slipped on grass and it totally tweaked her knee. Well, that would have been a complete like meniscal tear, but because she already had her body to a place of resilience, she was able to walk away with that without needing to have to go in for surgery, without needing to have to, and she bounced back within just a couple of weeks. So that's like, it's why it's so important to have those foundational pieces in place.
Definitely. It's not just the work that we have to do now for what we can see now. It's, we talk about all the time with like financial security. It's not if something's going to happen, it's when. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it looks like. That you have to do the work to prepare yourself to be. That's why we talk about, or I talk about creating unstoppable finances, because if we do this work now, like it's not just that quick fix that we find so often. And that's why we'll see, and people were like, okay, well, I'll do this. And, tax return time, it's kind of funny. The most searched like money related term in 2021 was on January 7th, the day that we got the stimulus, that last stimulus check. And it was like the biggest hit. So it was because all of a sudden we got all this money. Okay, now I need to do something instead of creating those consistent small habits. And they're not like making the massive changes. When we build these things in a little tidbits of time, it's so much more manageable. And I love how you include like the emotional and the mental side of it, because I talk all the time, like, it's not just like what you do with your money. I mean, yes, there's aspects of that, but 99% of the work that we do is with how you think about things and how you approach things. And it's so impactful in ways that we don't even realize. So it just, I love it. So go ahead.
No, and it's so true. And I think the other thing too is just like, when a lot of people think like sometimes too that they've got the safety net of Medicare, they got the safety net of Social Security later. And I will tell you, a lot of those things are set up, they are not going to be able to financially support you, and the quality of healthcare you get using those things, it won't be enough, especially if you haven't been taking care of yourself and you're looking at that you're going to have chronic illnesses later in life and arthritis and all these. I mean, like, who wants to spend their retirement constantly going in and out of, the doctor's office, or refilling their CVS like prescriptions. And I mean, that you worked in kind of insurance, and it's just like people needed supplemental stuff. And that's such a big thing. Like, a lot of people are depending on this safety net to catch them, but there's so many holes in it. And it's really, 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 really frustrating versus, like you said, doing those consistent little things, having that security in yourself. And it's a muscle that you build. And it translated into all areas of your life. And I think when we start to see ourselves more holistically, where it's not just like, I kind of deal with my finances, I kind of deal with my health, like when it gets to like, oh shoot, like I got to dig myself out of a whole thing. Oh, like just the joy that brings, just that freedom, like the first thing that you asked.
Yeah, definitely. And the holistic side, and I think we've even talked about, or you mentioned before about that, like sometimes it's more economical to like pay cash for things versus having the traditional medical insurance. And that's something else that I feel like we're indoctrinated with. I mean, how many times have people started home businesses and side businesses, but they still keep like that 9 to 5 job to have those benefits. And especially when you take the holistic view, it doesn't really do us good to have the benefits because they don't cover for things anyways. And there's definitely other solutions out there. I don't know how you feel about like the cost sharing programs that are out there. We've utilized some of those before. And I know with pre-existing conditions, you have to be more careful. My husband has those, so we've dealt with that. But it's one of those misconceptions and things that we're like indoctrinated with, like we have to have those benefits. And that's all the thought process that came from the industrial age, when the industrial age came around. So like retirement and like having a job with the benefits, it's all a relatively new concept, but we're not even in the industrial age anymore. It's not even applicable. And it's just something like, I feel like it's almost something we just have to be aware of. Like there is, again, other options out there, that it's not necessarily like we have to fit into this cookie cutter system that's kind of been created and preached to us.
Yeah. And I think like you said too, it's like so many people are really like, it is like so resistant to spend that money on the personal trainer, the health coach. Just like, okay, I go get a massage a couple of times. They like really being in tune with their body and what they need, and just being okay with taking that expense, where it's like, there's a lot of other things. You have kids in soccer doing the same thing, but where they feel so like they just can't make that expense, versus like they are consistently doing that with their health. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much. I mean, I specialize in surgery. Like that is an expensive thing. It's like expensive to be out of work. It's expensive to be cranky. It's expensive to, have to depend on somebody else, get right. Like in different ways that aren't just monetary, but when you're thinking of emotional and mental and like all those things. I mean, in time is one of the most precious things that we have. I think, and it's like when you are basically kind of giving that way or putting that at risk, that you're losing time, losing memory, all of those things when you don't have your health, or when you don't have a sense of like a solid foundation in those areas.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And I find often when we're not willing to invest in ourselves and invest in our health and treat ourselves in that manner, we often have a negative money mindset association that if you're in that situation, I mean, obviously we're going to give you resources to connect here and all of that, but I would challenge you to think about like, okay, when in my childhood or what happened that made me first think like, okay, I'm not worthy of this. And talked about like, it's even in the intro, like that was one of the stories that I created, that I was unworthy for so many different things. So it's not a bad thing that it's there. We all have the negative money mindset stories, but if it's showing up for you, let's do the work to at least become aware of what's going on. So is there a question that I haven't asked you that you think everybody needs to know the answer to? I feel like it's been such a great conversation already, but is there anything that we missed?
I mean, I guess like the biggest takeaway is like, and this is what I was telling when working with one of my clients, and it was just like, people like are so capable of, being able to be healthy. Like it doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing. It doesn't have to take hours and hours. It doesn't have to be complicated. Like, you don't need a medical degree. It's like, it is really, really, really actually simple. And I'm always telling people, like, we keep it simple, we keep it doable, and keep it fun. And the consistency piece is so key. But it is possible. I think that's the biggest thing, is that people can have their best health that they want. They can have energy. They can, have the ability where they can do whatever they want to do. I always tell people, it's like, it's a good question to ask. It's like, if someone basically said like, Aimee, I got a first class ticket. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to go hiking. We're going to see things. Like, there's some people that would be like, oof. Because they can't handle the flight. They can't handle I don't know about the beds. They can't handle the day-to-day. And like, and then you could translate that to anything. That could be going to weddings, going to this, but so many people, they don't realize like they're living in a place of tolerance. And there's so much more. And it was like one of my clients, he's like, I don't understand, but it's like, once you feel great, it's like, you never want to go back. But so many people do not know the potential for what it feels like to have like unstoppable health, unlimited energy, and to be able to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. As I like to say, that body freedom, to having body freedom is such an amazing thing. And it will translate into everything, how you show up for your partner, for your kids, for your work, which just keeps on, snowballing a very positive thing. And I mean, that's a big reason why I do the work that I do, because my hope is that when people do have that unstoppable health, it does have a ripple effect for how they show up for their kids. Their kids feel loved because daddy's able to throw that baseball instead of being like, oh, he can't because he's in pain. They don't know that. Like I see all those types of things, how people show up to work, the impact that they can make in the world. So I would just say that the one thing I would want people to take, that it is possible if you are struggling with pain, if you are struggling with low energy, if you've been told by so many people, oh, you've got an autoimmune disease, or you've been diagnosed with something, like there's nothing we can do about it. I'm here to tell you it's absolutely possible. It's just a matter of finding the right person to kind of guide you along the way, give you the tools and support you, like you said, so you do work through a lot of the other stuff that goes with it.
I love it. That was perfect. Great place to end. I do believe that you have a free gift for our listeners though. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've got, I have made, it's called the Pain-Free Body Blueprint. And in there, I go through my kind of 3-step system for how you can reverse chronic pain. And I put in some of my top videos in there, and I walk you through that process. And again, it doesn't have to take, you don't have to be doing hours and hours of mind-numbing exercises. Really, again, 20 minutes a day, you can sprinkle it throughout the day. That's why it's like, when you're doing these things, customize it to you, do what works. So I wanted to share that with you. And then also I have a Freedom from Fatigue resource as well that goes through, and there's recipes in there. There's a bonus masterclass that I put that really walks you through how you can reverse chronic fatigue and then chronic pain. So
I love it. And of course, we'll have all those links in the show notes for you. And then where can our listeners find you online? Because of course, they're going to want to find you, connect with you, all the things.
Yeah, I would definitely say, join me in the Pain Free and Powerful Project Facebook group. I go live in every week, Thursdays at 5 p.m. Today, we're talking about the sneaky reason why your low back goes out, and the things that we can do. So I love it. It's such a great, I love to connect with people, dialogue with people, and through there. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Yvonne Castillo. And then my website is just dryvonnecastillo.com. But come join me in the Facebook group. I love getting to know people, and just having great conversations and just empowering you to see, and give you the tools of how you can break the cycle of chronic pain and fatigue.
Absolutely. And of course, all those links will be below, and we'll see you next week, guys, for another episode of the Your Money, Your Life podcast. Bye for now.
Bye.